Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, whatever it may be, wherever you are. Good to see you all. Intriguing looking at the comments in the chat. Yes, I know. I don't think YouTube's working quite the way it used to. The big red button that used to be there that I used to have to press to go live has disappeared. And I was a little bit, what are we going to do? Anyway, welcome to another Photography Lockdown Live. And tonight we're going to be talking about our last challenge, which was PLD rules, breaking the rules. Hello everybody, look at you coming from all over the world. It is just absolutely amazing. I'm looking down here on my other laptop just so I can see what you can see, making sure everything works. Is it hot where you are? It's certainly hot here. It's really, really warm. So, welcome to everybody. Where are my notes? I should have had them ready, shouldn't I? Here we go. So before we get going, I do have one little announcement I wanted to make. Those of you who entered and participated in the Hope Challenge, this is my hope. I know quite a lot of you wonderful people entered the Alabare photo competition as well to support them with their work with homeless and underprivileged people. They emailed me today and they said actually they're going to extend the deadline to the 1st of September. So if you want to dig out some pictures, put them in there, then by all means please do. That would be really great to support them. The other thing about that is that the 19th of August, Wednesday the 19th of August, I think that's next week, that's World Photography Day, and if you enter pictures on the 19th of August, then you're going to be entered into a prize draw to win £30 worth of gift vouchers from Castle Cameras, which will operate on their website online. So I would love it if more of you did that. I hope lots of you have already done it. It's a really great cause. It's always good to try and help people out, you know, put a little bit back into the world. Now, as you know, we survive on small regular donations to keep Photo Lockdown going, because it is a lot of work to run it. And I just want to give a big shout out to this week's subscription superheroes, Danny Drummond, Donald Daly and Ian Watkins. Thank you guys for making a more than generous donation and signing up to do that, because you're helping this keep going for everybody. Thank you. If you want to become a patron to support Photography Lockdown, there's a link below this video. It's also on the PLD page of the website. So what are we going to be talking about? Oh, one other person I want to give a little shout out to was Janet Cooper. I think you're here, Janet. I think you're in Vancouver. I think I saw your name in the chat earlier, because you started a really interesting conversation in the group the other day about the nature of this Break the Rules challenge and what it might mean. Fascinating conversation, reading all your comments. Really, really enjoyed that. And it has actually influenced a little bit of what the next challenge will be, but we're just going to wait a moment before we go into that. So, oh right, please lower your sound a bit, it's distorting. Is that happening for everyone? Right, let me see what I can do for you. It's very, very strange between doing a rehearsal and setting this broadcast up and actually doing it. Things seem to change. Is that better? Please just tell me if that's good. Is the sound okay, guys? Is the sound okay, guys? Okay, fine. No sound issue here. Good. Then in that case, why don't we get rocking and rolling? Let me just look at my notes to make sure I haven't forgotten anything, because you know I'm good at that. Here we go. No? Cool. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about the nature of breaking the rules in a photo. Because breaking the rules is one thing, yeah, but you've still got to shoot an image which is engaging and interesting. This wasn't a competition to see how many rules you could break, and looking at one or two of the comments which went with the pictures, I think I didn't explain that clearly enough, for which I apologise. This is about, yeah, finding ways to break the rules, but also you've still got to come up with an engaging, interesting sort of an image. So let's get going and go and have a look at some of yours, because you really did an amazing job. So here we go. First of all, I just want to say a quick word with Andy Kelly. Oh, hang on a minute. Something's not right. There we go. I just want to say to Andy Kelly and to Andrew Smith, go and stand at the back of the room. I did enjoy that. It did make me laugh when I saw you put those up. I just thought it was kind of amusing. But yeah, talking about breaking the rules of composition and indeed kind of photography in general. There are so many rules in inverted commas, and as Barbosa said in Pirates of the Caribbean of the Pirates Code, it's not so much rules, it's more guidelines. Because it doesn't really matter whether an image conforms to rules or not. What matters is it engaging, is it interesting? So here's one of my pictures, which is all blurry. It's a bit soft. It doesn't really conform. Maybe it's a bit of a rule of thirds looking at where the eyes are, but to me, I don't mind that softness simply because it kind of adds to the happiness of this lady who was sitting at the side of the road selling snails in Vietnam, in Chau Doc, as we were walking down the street on a workshop. And I just saw her there and thought, that's really cool. And I said hello and just kind of got the camera and just held it out in my arm like that and just held it over her head and went click. And it's just the way she's laughing. So it's breaking the rules, as in it's actually not quite sharp, which I hadn't intended, but I do feel that it kind of adds something to it. No, I didn't actually, Bob. I'm not that keen on Vietnamese snails, I have to say. There's all sorts of things they eat, which I think is lovely. But here's another picture which breaks a whole bunch of rules. So, you know, the rules say if you're doing a portrait or with a person, they need to be facing into the open space and it needs to be sharp. Whereas to me, I think this really works. This isn't one of my images. This is by my friend and colleague Bella West, who is an amazing photographer. She specialises in child portraiture, but she gets a real mood and a feeling. I don't know what you feel when you look at this, but I kind of almost get a little bit of a slightly grumpy teenager, young kid who's maybe not quite a teenager, but is kind of like, oh, for goodness sake, mum, you know, and walking off out of the picture by positioning her kind of into the corner, into the edge of the frame rather than looking into the space. I feel it kind of gives a little bit more of that feeling. I don't know what you think. By all means, pop a comment in there. What do you feel when you look at this? Because I kind of get young girl who's sort of hot sunny day, she's going to go and play out in the garden, she's been told she can't, or something like that. Yeah, I would agree with you, Matthew. I think it is haunting. I like the colours. Yeah, true, UT lady, it's a kind of impressionist look. She's walking off, exactly, Yvonne. Yeah, it's that putting her facing the edge of the frame, which gives that feeling of I'm walking off rather than I'm coming to you, even if she wasn't looking. Yeah, she's walking into the wall. Who said that? Lenny. But also, here's another shot which breaks a whole bunch of rules. You know, one of the rules is you do not put your subject into the middle of the frame. Well, this subject is fair and square in the middle of the frame, and yeah, I don't know about you, I think this shot really, really works. I think it's a very powerful image. And all the stuff that's going on around our subject, it kind of helps hold it together. All those straight lines sort of hold it together, yet his face is smack in the middle. Also, look at the light. We've kind of almost broken a bit of rule there, but I feel that diagonal line of light on his face, it just kind of works. Now, I would suggest that the photographer who shot this knows a little bit about composition, because this is an Ansel Adams shot. A lot of people don't know. They think of him as purely being a landscape photographer. He actually shot an enormous amount of documentary and street photography as well. One more. Breaking the rules. Things are growing out of people's heads. I still think this is a very quirky and engaging picture. Now, just think, the photographer could have moved just a little one way to stop the wing of that aircraft sort of coming out the top of this guy's hat, but chose not to. And it's a photographer who would absolutely know how to control their composition. I don't know if any of you guys know who it is, but it's Sir Don McCullum. It's one of his shots. I think he knows a thing or two about composition, so he has kind of broken the rules here. But to me it still works. It gives a humorous edge to the shot. It's the way the guy's standing and having that airplane wing coming off the top of his head. There's just something I find humorous about this shot. I don't know what you think about it, but I love it. So let's get into your pictures, shall we? So, first up, Christine Powell. I get where you're going. You're kind of going for that, placing the subject into the middle of the shot, but you missed out the fact that we need some good light to be happening in there too. It's not just about breaking the rule and popping the subject square in the middle. It's also about having an engaging picture. Now, had this been taken very early in the morning, late in the afternoon, maybe if you had the sun right behind the tree, so there's a shadow coming towards you, it would work really well. I get it. Yes, you did break the rules, and maybe I didn't explain it properly. However, I think the light is really letting it down. We've got a similar sort of a thing going on here. Mike, is that Mike? Sorry, again, I can't see Mike. Yeah, it is Mike Mallet. I like the way you've broken the rules. I kind of like the way you've positioned the church in the middle and down the bottom, but the light is really quite harsh. It is coming slightly from the side, but I think had the sun been lower in the sky, you'd have much more interesting light. Had it been evening, something like that, you'd have had maybe a warmth of colour to it. But good effort. Now we've got another shot here which I think's kind of interesting. Again, it's a very central subject by Patsy. Is that Patsy? Yes, it is. Let me just make this one bigger, and then I can read your names off the other screen, can't I? Patsy Fairclough. I mean, it's a great shot, and there's something I find slightly humorous about the fact that bee's got its back turned to us, because we always see close-ups of bees facing us. Unfortunately, your bee is a little bit lost within the rest of the composition. You used a great shallow depth of field to try and concentrate our attention, but to begin with I was like, okay, what's going on here? And I thought it was more about the two flowers to the left rather than the bee itself. Again, I think, I don't know, maybe a slightly different light, maybe a little closer. I'm not quite sure what it needs, but it's a great shot, but it didn't quite pull it together for me. You may disagree, guys, because that's the great thing with photography, isn't it? It is all completely subjective. I do like this one, but there we go. Something I just want to say, by the way, in the feedback tonight, I'm going to spend a little bit more time looking at pictures which I think kind of worked. It's almost more shortlist shout-outs this time, because I want to talk more about why they worked and how they broke the rules. So our next one, here we go. We got a little bit of street stuff going on, and I like the thought that you broke the rules. You kind of cut your subject's head off, John. Yeah, and I like the fact there's a little bit of movement blur in there. My only concern is looking at that little bit of concrete on the left. It's almost like the focus isn't quite in the right place. It's focused on the concrete rather than the lady walking away. And it's a little bit uncomfortable for me. I'm a nutcase about wonky horizons, and it's just a little bit on a tilt. But it's okay, it's pretty good. I think a bit more light could have helped. I think possibly if you could have waited just a moment, because you got that car coming up the street with those headlights where they are. I'm just wondering if by some chance you could have got the car and the lady to align, because then you'd have had beautiful backlight behind that woman. The bright area would be behind her and make her stand out more. You may have had to follow her a little bit in order to get that, and of course maybe that bin could have got in the way and spoilt it for you. But those are my thoughts. Decisive moment here, I think, could have made quite a difference. What do we got here? We've got Julie. Yeah, and it's kind of like, Julie, you've kind of catalogued the rules you broke. Yes, I get it, but I'm still not entirely sure the shot works. simply because there's a bit too much happening in the background. We're not quite sure where to look, we're not quite sure what it's about. We've got the kids, yeah, on the sandbar, the family on the sandbar and the beach huts, but they're kind of lost because there's a bit too much going on. Maybe playing with depth of field a little bit if you could have done. Maybe, again, different light, but of course they wouldn't have been there then. Maybe someone else would have been. But again, it wasn't so much about cataloguing how many rules were broken as finding a way to get a great shot, which doesn't really adhere to the rules. Something like the ones we've looked at. Jason, nice try, nice idea. But I don't know how rule breaky it is. To me, yeah, it's a little bit on the tilt. I find that it's a bit overexposed for me. I just think that I'm not adverse to a burnt highlight at all. I get it, you're burning highlights. I'm not adverse to a burnt highlight. However, I do just think it's a little bit too overexposed, maybe a tiny bit under, just so that the highlight on the fruit wasn't quite so burnt. Don't have a problem with the window. We've got one here from Keith Thompson. I kind of like this just as a shot, but I'm not quite sure how, you know, it's quite conventional. Forgive me. I'm being your coach here, guys. If I say things that sound a bit harsh, it's because I'm being your coach. I'd be a rubbish fitness coach if I just sat there eating donuts and sausage rolls in the gym with you, as opposed to saying, go on, try harder. So forgive me if I sound like I'm being harsh. It's a nice shot, but I don't really feel there's anything particularly edgy or overly different from it. And we got one here from Stephen James Barnett. And again, I love your colours, but I think they might be a little bit overdone. And again, I'm not entirely certain of quite what rules are being broken here. I'm not quite sure where to look. It's colourful. I get the heather, but I think it's probably a bit too colourful. It's almost like it's been a little bit overcooked in the post-production, Stephen. I think if the colours were a little bit more subdued, and I get that your eyes go to the where the sun is, but it's a bit confused by the, you know, the vapour trails and stuff. Maybe if you could have got a little bit tighter onto the heather. I'm not quite sure how a shot like this could work. It's a difficult thing to break the rules. Trust me, this is a tough challenge. I'm absolutely not saying that it isn't. Moose just said he really likes the overdone colours. I get it, yeah. It is very colourful, and we all have our own personal choice, and that's one of the really cool things about doing this stuff, isn't it? Gaston Quiche, I really like your idea with this. It's like, you know, being confused. I like the way she is kind of to the edge. She's sort of looking into something flat. She's not got lots of space. I also kind of quite like that sign in the background behind her when I noticed and read it. I can't read it. It's a bit too blurry on this screen. Forgive me. And my eyes are old and bent. I'm not very good at reading small things. I like your idea. Options during lockdown. Which door should I pick? I wonder if you could have found a way to sort of told a little more of that story in there. Yeah, I get it. She's looking in through the door, and we get the whole thing with the mask, etc. But we're not quite getting the confusion without reading the description. I'm just wondering, could there have been a way in which maybe you could have done a slightly edgy composition, and maybe on that door it's going, you know, enter this way and don't come in that way, and all that stuff that we see these days. Might have just kind of helped it a little bit. I like this idea by Zoran. I really do like this idea, Zoran. I find this a very intriguing shot. Now, the brightest bit is that, I don't know whether it's a curtain that's flying in the breeze outside of a window. There's something kind of oppressive with this shot. It's the fact that it's not on a third or anything. It's not really in the middle, but somehow we know what we're supposed to be looking at, and I do like it. But I do have the feeling it's just a little eeny bit undercooked. So I do hope you don't mind, but I took the liberty of brightening it up a bit, and I just think it works a bit better with a little bit more contrast. and a little bit more exposure, I just think somehow it works a little bit better. I don't know, what do you think, guys? Totally agree with you, Burrowing Bunny. This shot was absolutely made for black and white. There is no question about that. I love the shapes. The reason that for me it works is we've got these lines and hard angles and concrete, and then suddenly we got this billowy piece of white material blowing out of the window. It's kind of lonely, it's slightly distressing, it's almost kind of like someone needs to be rescued. Those are the feelings that I get from it, and I do like this shot. I think you did a very, very good job there. But I just felt it could have done with a teeny bit more exposure. It's learning to control that exposure. But also, of course, I don't know what your monitor's doing, because to you it could have looked brighter than it does to me, and this is one of the great problems we face with looking at pictures online, is we've no idea how someone else's monitor is displaying our picture. What have we got here? One of our very active members here, Shayana. I like this. I like it a lot. I like what do I like about it? Why do I think it works? Again, you're breaking a bit of a rule, because instead of having your cyclist moving into the frame, they're moving out of it. They're leaving. They're on their way. They're going somewhere. We don't know where they're going. We don't know what they're up to. Pan blurs, I find, are very difficult shots. Some of you might be really, really good at it. I don't know why. I'm hopeless at it. Was on a workshop in Cambodia with one of our regulars who's become a good friend, Marie Carabin from Jet Aviation, and she was going, show me how to do street pans, and I showed her, and she just did it first time. Another lady called Christina lives in France, she did it too. She just did one of the best street pans I've ever seen the first time she did it. I'm just like, oh, I'm going to pack all this in. Chayana, I love your shot. I like the way you've put it together. I like the fact you've done a bit of street panning. I think it's really great. I love the positioning of your cyclist. I'm not entirely sure we need the tilt. Whether that's intentional or not, I'm not completely sure. But I'm not sure we need the tilt. And so again, I hope you don't mind. I had a little fiddle. Which do you prefer, guys? With the tilt or with the road straight? I'm just going to flick between. Just say tilt or no tilt. I'm just intrigued what you think. Moose likes the tilt. Tilt, prefer the tilt. Straight, straight. No tilt, yes tilt. Yeah. I can't keep up with all that lot. That's just so cool. But as you can see, it's pretty much a 50-50. We all like what we like. Personally, I prefer it without the tilt. I think it's strong enough in its own right for it to work without the tilt. I'm not sure it adds anything. We got one here by Hillary, which again, I kind of like the way you've positioned your boat low in the frame. I kind of get where you're going with this. And it is down in the corner. Now, I'm not sure, but I feel that a shot like this could work a little better rather than having the boat to the corner, even though you've done a great job. Yeah, you've broken a few rules a bit, but I think you could have broken a rule a little bit more and possibly made it stronger. So again, I hope you don't mind, I took the liberty of fiddling and put your boat right in the middle. I don't know what you think. Now, this is very badly photoshopped. I did this just quickly and it's a bit of a mess. But again, which do you think you prefer? Yeah, I get it, Burrowing Bunny. It does break the rule of thirds, where, you know, the original composition is. That's true, but I just think it's a stronger picture when the boat is right in the middle. And also you got that brighter little bit in the clouds, which to me helps you go straight to the boat. And again, you see, everybody likes something different. Now, the sails on the boat would have come to life a lot more had it been in the middle, simply because you've got the brighter sky just behind them. I'm not saying I'm right, I'm not saying I'm wrong, I'm not saying any of you guys are right or wrong. It's all opinion. I can see I might be in for a bit of flack this evening. You prefer to the right because of the negative space, Nicole. Yeah, I can see where you're going with that. I can see where you're going with that. But again, we could, of course, have kept it in the middle and just giving it more negative space. So we've got a little boat. When you think of a boat on the ocean, it's such a tiny, insignificant thing, isn't it? So, you know, almost with more negative space, I think it may have worked better. I've got a similar shot to this that I took myself, and I was going to try and find it and put it in here, but to be honest with you, I apologise, I couldn't find it. Glyn wants the boat upside down. That is so Glyn. Good to see you, buddy. What Glyn said. All right, Keith, don't you start ganging up. Here's another very, very similar composition from Ian. And I love the fact the seal looks almost jolly. I feel the seal looks kind of happy and jolly, and yeah, you've got him right down in the corner. But I couldn't help but think it might be a bit more fun, and the seal might look bored if he was facing the other way. I don't know. To me, it's kind of like a bit like, you know, the child walking out the frame. These sorts of shots. I just feel that with the seal looking into the frame, he looks jolly. But looking out of the frame, it's almost like he's ignoring the viewer, he or she. And it is kind of like, I don't know, bored. It's just like, always intrigued by something we don't know. The looking out of the frame in this case kind of piques my curiosity just a little bit more. But switch it back and forth more quickly. Okay, right, let me see what I can do. Bear with me, because this takes a little bit of operating, and I'm a bear, a little brain. Right, okay, jolly. All right, I'll do it a couple of times. And the last one. Is that good? Looks like something will pop up behind him. Nice one, Sue. Graham, I like your idea. Graham Volame. Volami, sorry. I like your idea. Great use of opposing colours, yellow and blue. So strong. I kind of like the way you've positioned your plants. My problem is I'm not quite sure which one I'm meant to look at. I find it just ever so slightly confusing, and I just wondered whether it works better like that with just one. And I kind of, again, I know we're going down that kind of the flowers almost looking out the other way as well, the flowers turning its back on us. I prefer it with one. Okay, yeah, well, I don't know. What do you think, guys? I'm always interested in your opinions. And also, this is really great for everybody to see your opinions, because I know so many people post pictures and they get really upset when their pictures don't get a whole pile of likes. And it doesn't mean your pitch is bad, wicked or wrong. It just means you like it better than someone else. And you certainly cannot please all of the people all of the time. And that's why I think it's so valuable seeing what everybody else thinks about the same pictures, because it might help those of you that worry about whether people like your pictures or not, if your pictures are good enough. It might just sort of help you out a bit, because everybody likes something different. Ken Woodhall. Nice idea. I like the way you positioned your swan. I very much like those reeds. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, and Ken, if you're watching and you're here, please correct me if I am. But to me, it looks like the rays of light are not real. It looks to me like they've been added. I could be wrong. It's a very hard thing to put in light rays if they don't exist, or maybe they are there and maybe you've tried to bring them to life a bit more in post-production. But to me, they don't look quite right somehow. Which is kind of a shame, because I like your swan and I like its positioning and I like the reeds, and maybe just waiting a moment until the swan looked a little bit more engaging with its head up, then I think you probably could have had quite a nice image without needing to put in the light rays. I'm just trying to keep a little eye, and just in case you're here, Ken, and you get the chance to say anything about it. So we'll give Ken just a little moment. Yeah, okay. Yeah, forgive me. I'm not sure the light rays are adding anything. Very hard thing to do. light rays. Right, okay, we'll move on. Yeah, I agree with you, Moose. I kind of like it, even though they may be fake. I think it's such a skill to try and do this that it is a real skill. I'm not great at creating light rays. I'm really not. I don't try and do it because I'm not good at it. What have we got here? We've got Claire Newton's strawberry. And I love the way that we look straight at the straw. We know where we're going to look, don't we? We've got complementary colours once again. We've got reds and we've got greens. And I kind of like it. This is something a bit close to my heart because the farm out the back of my place, this is what they spent many years growing, strawberries in these trestles. My only thing is that leaf, that big dominant leaf on the right, because you've got a great depth of field going on. You've controlled that really nicely. We know what we're looking at. Yeah, you've broken a rule. You put the strawberry in the middle. It's not the most powerful of images, but I feel that that leaf that's out of focus in the top right is just fighting with your strawberry. And it's never good when that happens, is it? So maybe just, you know, remember guys, when you're shooting anything, look all around the viewfinder. The viewfinder is that picture frame that would be on the wall. You know, there's a couple of pictures behind me and they're in frames. Your viewfinder is that frame and you've got to look all around the edges, run your eye all the way around the edge and see what's going on, and that's when you start to notice things like that. What else have we got here? Oh yes, Neger. I think this is such a funny and comical photo. I like your composition. I'm not entirely sure whether it sort of breaks rules. I mean, it isn't massively so, but I don't care. I think it's a great shot. To me, I feel it possibly needed a little bit more brightening up. It's difficult because you've got a lot of highlights behind your, I don't know if it's a pigeon, I'm not sure what it is. It's taken into the sun, blowouts. Well, I wouldn't say the blowouts are that massive. In fact, you might have got away with blowing them out more and it may have helped. Now, you caught a brilliant decisive moment because you've got such a comic smile on this bird's face. It's just funny. It looks like it's just been caught out for doing something naughty. Great effort. I think maybe brought up the exposure a little bit more and let those highlights go a bit further. It possibly may have worked because the background would be a lot brighter. Yep, good old rule break. But the pigeon, or whatever it is, the bird would have brightened up with it, and I think we'd be able to see its face a little more. Now, interestingly, I'm looking between my monitor here and the YouTube monitor down there, and there is a big difference in exposure between these two, which is, again, very hard to look at things when we're doing this online, because we don't know what the monitors are doing. I do know that monitor is calibrated, and this one possibly isn't. I have to get a new calibrator, because since Apple came along and decided to go, I think it's 64-bit or something like that, my Spider Pro 4 doesn't work on it anymore. George Stevenson, you put so much work into your stuff, and I love your smile, I love your composition, all that negative space in the middle. This just makes me smile. It's just such a happy picture. I just think it's great. Now, I'm not entirely sure. Did you Photoshop this? Is this a background? Because I know you're pretty good with your Photoshop, but it's just the thing that's bothering me, and I'm being hard on you because I know how good you are at doing these things. It just kind of looks smudgy, almost like something's been brushed out, and it just looks a bit smudgy. And round the shoes, the light doesn't seem to quite match the light on you. The shoes seem to me to be a bit too dark. They haven't quite got enough detail in them, and they've got this sort of dark halo around them, which is a shame because this is such a fun picture, and I really like how brave you've been with that composition. It's a great shot, George. As many of the guys are saying here, I totally agree with them. It really is. Now, this is a tricky one for me because I like this a lot. Sunil Kumar. It's a very, very powerful picture. And because of that, I've been very, very picky. Now I know that you're not breaking a rule as such by putting them hard over the other side, but it doesn't matter. To me, this shot still pretty much works. It's strong. I like the hard angle line thing that you've got going on here. It really is a great shot. And so I'm going to be picky with you. I like the way you've placed him very close to the bottom, but you just cut half his toes off. Just the minutest tilt down with the camera and they'd have been there. Well, maybe that was part of your idea with breaking rules, and this is what I mean about breaking rules. You've got to come up with a great picture. This is a great picture, and I am being hard on you. I'm pushing you hard here, but it's just the way his foot is just being cropped on those toes. To me, it's such a shame because, as Moose just said, it is a very classy image. No question about that. Ron, I like your idea. I do like your idea. And I'm not quite sure what this needs. I think it's light. Now, I think one person on the bench may have been better. I like the way you kind of have been brave in not positioning them symmetrically, so the gaps on either side are not equal. And in a way, I kind of like it. Now, maybe you were also fighting with that tree coming down the side and sort of thinking, oh, I wish it wasn't there, or maybe you wish it was there. I'm not sure. Does it need anything in the water? Glyn actually just said, does it need a swan? Or it needs a swan. It was a statement. Apologies, Glyn. I actually disagree with you there, Glyn, because I think the swan would have then been in competition with our subject, which are these people sitting on the bench. What I think could have worked more, because we haven't got amazing light to play with, it just wasn't there. I think what was needed was an interplay between the two people. Now, conventionally, you'd kind of wait for the decisive moment when they turn to look at each other. But what might have been really good fun would have been if they were both looking away from each other. I think that could have been quite good fun, both, you know, looking the other way. How do you go about doing that? Well, you either wait to see what happens and hope you get the shot, or possibly go over and say, hey guys, would you mind? And just see what happens. I mean, who knows? They may say no. Brighten the greens. Who said that? George was saying brighten the greens. I'm not so sure, George. In a way, I kind of like the muted colours. What I think we need is some human interplay there somehow. And I really just think it would have worked well with going with our theme if they were facing in opposite directions. What have we got here? Steve Swain. There are so many things about this that I like. And you've really thought about it and put a fair old bit of work in it. I like the bravery of having the human figures right up at the top of the frame there. Because the temptation is always to have them lower down. I like the fact they're close to the top. How you have so carefully positioned yourself to get the sun and that little starburst going on through the bridge, and then the bridge itself is creating a frame for what's going on beyond it. There are so many things about this to like, and I'm sorry I haven't put it further up, because you're not really breaking the rules as such, but you're not conforming to them either, which is the other thing, guys. It's not so much just looking to break rules, it's more to do with not conforming to them. Now, Jules Vids has just said what I was about to come to. Unfortunately, to me, it just looks a little bit overdeveloped, a little bit overprocessed. To get such a nice starburst, I think you probably shot this raw. To me, it's got a little bit of that HDR-y look to it. It's almost like it needs more shadows. It's almost like the shadows have been lifted a little bit too much. Don't be afraid of a shadow. We don't need to see all the detail. These shadows could have gone down quite a bit without it hurting it. I just think a bit more contrast probably would have helped it. But it is such a beautifully put together picture. I really like the way you worked on that. Harry Crossland, you were pretty brave with this one too, just where you positioned your subject. But I'm sorry, my friend, I've got a couple of things I just need to point out here. I just feel that a shallower depth of field would have really helped, because I like the way she's in the middle, and I kind of like the way she's sort of got the light on her face, great light going on there, and she's kind of swiveled her eyes round a little bit, but she's kind of being lost behind those rocks. Now, whether you did that intentionally, because, you know, I did make it clear it's not just about breaking as many rules as possible, you still got to somehow come up with a picture. But the other thing I'm not sure about is her pose with her legs. It's somehow uncomfortable. It's just somehow uncomfortable. I'm not sure whether I'm supposed to be looking at her or the leg pose. I can't help but thinking this might, and I don't know, might have worked quite well if you cropped her head off, because sometimes doing crazy things like that actually makes quite a nice abstract picture. And it would be a shame, you know, you've got beautiful light on her face, she's got a great face, she's got a beautiful face. But I can't help but thinking, for an edgy sort of a picture, would it have worked to sort of just take her off, just at the chin, maybe just at the chin, or just above her mouth, something like that. Now, I know I have just criticised somebody for cropping half a toe off, but the half a toe thing kind of looked like it was a little bit careless, forgive me. Whereas if you kind of purposely cut hard through somebody's face, that's pretty much obviously on purpose. My friend Bella West, who did the little girl in the blurry thing right at the beginning of this, she's kind of famous for cutting people's heads off, but she makes some very powerful images. Search Bella West photography. There's a few interviews with her actually on my YouTube. We both kind of got into this together at about the same time and known each other for a very long time. Bella does things which shouldn't work. If you want to look at ways of breaking rules, go and look at some of Bella's stuff. She's being very more fine arty at the moment, but she was always cutting people's heads off, putting them in strange places, blurring things, things that shouldn't work, but they do. She's very good at that. Go and have a search, go and have a look for Bella. Now here's a shot which I think could have worked really well. I'm not sure about the green. The greeny blue colour cast. I think it's a bit undercooked and could be a little bit brighter. I like the way you framed it. I like the way you've been brave and come in tight. But again, I'm kind of wondering, would it have been edgy had your sitter, whether it's a selfie, I don't know, had this person been looking out of the frame rather than into it? I like the way you've done it tight, but I'm not sure about the green. I really don't think that the greeny blue thing works. Lorraine's going green question mark. The colour I get when I stick it in my Photoshop is a greeny blue, almost a turquoisey colour. I am a little bit colourblind, guys. I should mention that. I do have a red-green colour thing. So it is possible I'm seeing a slightly different hint. Sue Owen says turquoise. Yes, that's probably a good word. Turquoisey green. I don't think you're adding anything. I think it could have been a bit brighter, a little bit more contrasty. That would have made a big difference, and I'd love to have seen what it would look like if they'd been just over a bit, one way or the other, and kind of, I don't know, facing slightly out of the frame. What do we got here? I don't know what I'm going to say about this, but I still have to mention it anyway. I don't know if he's watching. Tom Oswald. The boss and managing director of ClickerSnap has entered our photo lockdown challenge, and I kind of like it. There's things about it I like and things I'm not sure. I like the shallow depth field. I like the bravery of the composition, but there's something somehow doesn't quite work. Now, I'm not opposed to a burnt highlight, but I think the burnt highlight on her dress isn't great. I like the bravery of the crop. I'm not quite sure. Maybe the crop needs to go right through her nose. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just, you know, I love the way her eye is right in the corner. There is something about it which is eye-catching, no question, Tom. Yeah, it's a little bit too bright, Delarice says. She is a bit overcooked. Better if the top of the head included. Maybe actually, maybe if there was just a bit of forehead. It's really interesting looking at your comments, you see, because everybody notices something different. Again, this is the great thing with photography. Yeah, you're right. Is it a white hat? Is it a straw hat, George? It is a little bit overcooked, Tom. Must try harder, mate. Now we got, I like this as an interesting picture, Karen. I like the light. I certainly like the light. Now it's hard to tell on this because the way Facebook puts pictures, as I seem to recall in your shot, I kind of had to reduce the contrast a bit to check. You have actually got that Jeep Land Rover 4x4 kind of pretty much central. Yeah, cool. Although because of the black space, which I think Facebook adds, it looks as though you're kind of a bit off to one side. I do like it. There are things about it I like. I love the colours. I like the framing. I like the way you've used the, you know, the trees, the bushes. I like the fact it's quite dark. And I do realise that you did centrally frame it. My thing is, what's going on in the picture? Excuse me. I'm going to have a sup of water. My thing is, what's going on? It's about decisive moments. Something more interesting, I'm not sure. It's kind of like there's a Jeep with some people and you got a picture of it. I like the fact the two doors are open. I'm just wondering if you could have hung around. Maybe you did hang around. Maybe the decisive moment didn't come. Maybe this is the best decisive moment you got. I do kind of like those feet underneath, I have to say, but I don't know. I just feel it needed something. Maybe somebody standing on one sort of side looking over the top, calling to, I don't know what. But if we've got humans in there, I think ideally we like a little bit of human interaction while they're doing something. Good effort, good effort. Here's another one. Now this one I kind of really liked, and for me, Christopher, there was just one thing. It's not quite sharp. I like the subtle colours. I think it could do being a teeny bit brighter, but I do love the subtlety of the colours. It hasn't been pushed up hard. We've got a grey blue sort of a sky and the grey blue of the ball. They work together. I love the way this little kid's sort of looking off over his shoulder. I just think it's great. Unfortunately, it isn't quite sharp. It's your grandson I've just seen having a look, Cullen. The way Cullen's looking away. Excuse me. I haven't been drinking enough water today. I've been sitting in my office sweltering. Yeah, good effort, really good effort. Like the way you've composed it, like the way you put it together. I don't even mind the fact that you got the horizon going through his head. Maybe you did that on purpose. It doesn't actually bother me at all. It's just not quite sharp. I feel it could do with, do you think, just a little bit higher up. Here's someone I know, Angie Jones, who started making appearances here. Just on you're coming on in leaps and bounds, Angie. The stuff you're doing, you always were pretty good. But I really like this. I like the kind of the chopped off head in the foreground. I do think that's fun. Because the girl in the shorts is so strong and the way she's kind of walking out, there's something about that I really, really like. I think I get it. You really, really struggled. You said somewhere in the comments you've been up and down the street several times trying to get this one to work. And yeah, you do. You have to shoot an awful lot, and you were shooting from the hip. I also saw that. I don't know if you were using burst mode. It's just a little tip. If you're doing this, guys, use burst mode. Stick it on, you know, high frame rate and just little bursts of shots. Because I'm not sure whether this shot is about the girl and the way the light is playing on her clothes and all the rest of it, and she's sort of hurrying somewhere, or whether it's about the guy who's looking the other way. If the guy was looking towards the camera, I'd know it was about the guy. But because he's looking the other way, I find myself confused. Bear a little brain. I don't know what you guys think. Pop a few comments in there, please. What do you think? Now, I think had you managed to capture this just a fraction earlier, so that the girl wasn't actually cutting her knee off. So close to the edge of that frame, leaving the frame, left her head cut off. To me, it would have been great. It would have been a busy street scene. Like the way you've used black and white. What do we got? Sue says, would crop the man out on the right, so there's only 3 people. Yeah, maybe. Personally, I don't mind his shoulder just sort of poking in there in a shot of this type. Lorraine says, funny, he seems to be looking at the older lady. A faceless society. Yeah, interesting. Yeah, exactly, Steve. I kind of like the ambiguity. Ah, right. Now this is interesting. Glyn says for him it's about the lady in the dress. Wow. Now I hadn't really kind of noticed her there. Maybe it's just, girl in shorts, nice light on her leg. Bloke, But anyway, great shot either way, and it's just cool looking to see what you think. Janet Cooper says his girlfriend is calling him. Here's another shot which I liked a lot. Where Browne. I like this a lot. There's so many things happening, but I'm sorry, my friend, it's not quite sharp. It looks like camera shake. This is your daughter. I like the composition. I like the way she's positioned. I like the colours. I like that diagonal thing going on, that triangle in the corner. I don't know how you've done it. I don't know what's going on, because this doesn't look as though you've done a tilty thing on the camera. And that I find intriguing. So it's kind of different. It's not smashing rules again, but it's not really conforming. Burrowing Bunny saying great bokeh. Bokeh is just blurry background, and it's either more or less. If you've got a bigger aperture and a longer lens, you get more of it. Excuse me, guys, I apologise. I like this. It's a happy picture. It feels of springtime. But what intrigues me is just how we've got that funny tilt thing, but we haven't. Really, really good effort. Really, really good effort. Looks like a bench or a table. Possibly, Bob. Dean says he likes the softness. Yeah, maybe. Just how I still take them. Just twig. Yeah, again, it's great looking at your comments. Just keep them coming, guys. It's fascinating. It would have been such a strong image if her face was pin sharp. Yeah, that's kind of what I feel, Bearer Clive. If her eye was sharp. But you've done a great job, guys. Really great job. I am so impressed. If you struggled with this rule breaking thing, if you're someone who struggled with it, take on board some of the things we've just talked about going through here, because breaking rules isn't just about seeing how many you can break. I mean, I've learned a lot in running this challenge with you, because it's kind of like breaking the rules isn't really about breaking the rules so much as non-conformism. It's about not conforming to the rules. Anyway, here are my shortlist shout-outs. There are quite a lot of them, because I felt let's look at pictures and discuss a little more about why they are sort of non-conformist, I guess. Debbie Harmit, it's just powerful. It's just powerful. You're not really breaking rules, I suppose. Well, I suppose you are, if you like. The purist will say you should never look up someone's nose. You shouldn't photograph them from underneath. You've got a highlight on their face. The eyes are in the middle. The more you look at it, I suppose you can find things. But it's powerful. It's just powerful. It makes you want to look at it and think, wow, this person looks so powerful. The negative space above the head. Very, very powerful shot. I really, really like it. I really like it. Another here by our friend Mr. Philip Gray, which I really liked as well. I get it, you've kind of got everything above the halfway point and lots of empty things going on below, but you've kind of got this ridiculously non-conformist, I'm going to use that word now, over-dominant, leading line of the path. But what it really gives us is that this person is up high, and it's kind of a journey. I find it intriguing. I kind of want to go up there and see, you know, what is she looking at? The fact that her face is in shade, pretty much her head is a silhouette. Again, very strong, hard light, but it just works. And I think it was a good choice to go black and white as well. I really do think it's a good choice to go black and white. Good shot. Well done. Paul Tyzak. Another powerful shot. Forgive me, I don't think your drop shadow border is adding anything to it. In fact, personally, I think it's taking away from a powerful image. You are in tight. In fact, are you not conforming here? Maybe you are a bit because you've chopped the cigar off. I don't know, but regardless, it is a powerful picture. It's great light. It is very, very strong. I'm not sure about the drop shadow border. What do you think, guys? Just, you know, what do you think? Does the drop shadow border add to the picture, or is it a little bit distracting? I often think borders in pictures, as well as these big, you can go and get these, watermark, scrolly watermark things. I'm not a fan personally. Yeah, I think lots of people are kind of agreeing with me, and yeah, you guys know me well enough to say, shut up, Browne, you don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, you've got such a powerful picture. Putting that border around it is kind of distracting away from it, and it's taking away some of its power. But it's a great shot nonetheless. There were so many really intriguing, interesting shots. Dean, you have appeared in here a lot, I know. I try to give as many people a chance to get their names called out as humanly possible. I really do, but at the end of the day, and I study pictures a lot. There are names that crop up, and I guess those pictures sort of speak to me. I get it, but this is why I try to go through as many as I can. I just liked it. The two different pools of light. The composition is top and bottom, and yet it's kind of like really, really clear what we're looking at. To me, I'm going straight to the little purple flowers at the bottom, and the little green bit poking out at the top is secondary. There's not quite so much light at the top as there is at the bottom. And yet we just got this mass of, again, black negative space going on in the middle. I just think it is, as Sue Owen has just said, beautiful and quiet. It's colourful, it's beautiful, it's quiet, it's warm. I can almost smell this picture. Does that make sense, or am I just talking utter bollocks? But it just, I can almost smell those plants. It's warm, it's hot, it's summery. Great shot, Dean. Really like it. Alec Murray. I love this. It's fulfilling the brief. It's edgy. I like the choice of black and white. This puts me in mind of, I don't know, Man Ray and I don't know, who's the guy who photographed Stravinsky with the piano over the top? I can't remember his name. But this really does draw me into some of the old photography. The negative space isn't above so much as to the side, and I kind of like it. I'm intrigued. Who is this little boy? What's he doing? What is that he's holding in his hands? I mean, those are the questions that come up. So what makes a good photo? What makes a nice shot? To me, I think it's something that I want to look at. We live in a world of swipe, 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 next, next, next. And this is how Clicker Snap works. It's based on how long does someone look at your picture for. It's not, how many likes or clicks you get. It's how long does somebody look at it, because we go next, 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 next. What I want to see is a picture that makes me pause and think for a moment. Whether I like it or don't like it, whether it makes me happy or sad, isn't so much the issue, but is it engaging? Does it make you want to pause for a moment and just look at it? And this really does. I really like it. I really like it, Alec. Great job. So is that clear for anyone who's struggling with this rules thing? So what rules have we broken here? Well, nothing is really on a third, so you can ignore that. We haven't conformed to any rule of thirds. We haven't conformed to anything about diagonals. We haven't conformed to anything about filling the frame. It's just a picture. It's just a picture, and that's all it is. It does look a bit like a baby trolley, but I'm not so sure if it is, because it's almost like wickerwork down at the bottom. I don't know. I don't know. Great shot, nonetheless. Here's another from Alexander Herzl. I like the sun right in the middle. I like the contrastiness. The sun is in the middle and it works. So are we conforming to anything here? Possibly a bit. There's quite a strong third line down the bottom, I suppose. But, you know, I'm going to say a little bit about these rules of composition when we get to the end, just before we have a look at our winner. Because I've been working for the last 2 days on a new webinar all about composition. So I've got lots of composition-y thoughts going on in my head. I just like it. I like the bright point right in the middle. I like the feeling. It's morning. It's early morning. There's still a chill in the air and it's going to get hot. That's the feeling that I'm getting from this. I really like it. Evelyn, thank you. Arnold Newman. Photo of the piano with Stravinsky. Here I think we got a great. Kayleen. I'm just waiting, just having a look. Sorry, it'll be bigger on this screen when it comes up. Kayleen. This is just, I love it. I kind of love it. It's just, you know, it's blurry. It's soft. The horizon's pretty much in the middle. And it works. To me, it just works. I really love it. And it works to be in black and white too. This isn't a representation photograph, this is a feeling photograph. It's the feeling, and I totally get this of sort of, I don't know, sitting by water somewhere, and again it's a similar feeling to the last shot. I'm getting misty, I'm getting, those clouds are going to burn off in a while and it's going to get hot, and there's a breeze blowing. Now, okay, maybe I'm nuts making up stories in my head just from images, but I guess this is what creativity is making up stories in our heads and then finding ways to make them happen. Dean just said it's dreamy. Debbie says it's reflective. Sue says it's a bit spooky. Burring Bunny says spooky. Beverly just loves it. Oh, Bob, I like what you just said. Bob Bowring, feeling of drifting away. Yeah, it's a daydream in black and white. That's what I get from this. As always, so much trouble separating these, you know, out, because all of these, everything from shortlist shout outs to where we finish now, they were all in my winners folder, and I had to go and I want them all to win. Almost ethereal. I don't know about that, Dean. I'd say it is ethereal. Now then, this is someone I have to have a little word with. Tori Hunter. If I remember correctly, this is more than once you've done this sort of thing. But nonetheless, it works. It works. Such a totally different sort of an image. Now, remember we were talking a bit earlier about possibly cropping the lady with the kind of uncomfortable leg pose, maybe cropping her off on her lips. Now, Tori, you've kind of done that, and to me it kind of works. I think it works better than if you'd just taken her off at the throat. I do like this a lot, but you are scaring me because I'm pretty sure this is the second time you've done something like this, so I'm not going to be coming around your place for tea. But a great shot, well executed, really well executed. Everything's going down the middle. We've just got a line. We haven't got a diagonal line. We're not conforming to any rules. The rule of diagonals stuff. You know, have a diagonal line. You've got a line going vertically straight down through the shot. I like it. It works. Well done, Tori. Oh man, Lenny, I so like this too. And I know you're here. I saw you commenting just now. You promise it's your first murder scene. Yeah, I think I've seen some dark and moody from you before though, but it's a really great shot. Lenny, I like this. I like it a lot. If you want to analyse rules, and I don't like rules, and I'm going to talk about that just before we go into the winner, you've got someone looking out of the frame. Their face is partially obscured. You know, they might be sitting on a third, and this is one of the things I don't like about rules, but they're looking out of the frame, their face is partially obscured, and it's happy. It's happy. Something over there is making this kid smile, and it's happy, and he's swinging on his rope, and I want to swing on that rope too. And it's something about black and white which is so beautiful. It somehow seems to convey mood and feeling better than colour. Sometimes the other way around, but it does really, really work. Congratulations on that one. Now this one I really like too, from John Colony, because you kind of were pretty brave here. It's a very, very striking, it's a very powerful image. You used a wide angle lens to do a full length portrait. And again, you kind of like, have you got lines? No. Are you conforming to thirds? No. Are you conforming to anything much? No, not really. You just got this cross in the middle of your frame. You've got the man and you've got the truck fender bumper, whatever you call it. I just think it is a very strong, very well done, very striking image. My only one slight criticism is, again, I just think possibly it looks like the shadows have just been lifted. I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit more contrast, a little bit more, a few more blacks in there, but it's a really niggly little point, and it's purely personal choice. But it's a really great demonstration that, yeah, you can use a really short wide angle lens and shoot a very powerful portrait. You just got to think about how it works. If anyone who's been on the Focal Length Explained webinar will know how dangerous it is shooting a human being with a very wide angle lens, especially full length, because you are in danger of making them look very fat. Indeed, you've got this right. Boom. Nice job, John. Perker. I like this, it's intriguing. I mean, we've got a kind of big time tilt going on here, I suppose. And there's lots of symmetry in it, loads of diagonals, and then you've kind of gone and absolutely interrupted everything, because it kind of looks like almost black and white, and then you've gone and interrupted everything by having that little splash of yellow-green going on. Now someone's going to tell me that's not yellow-green and that you are colourblind, Browne. Yeah, I know I'm a little bit colourblind, but hey, so what? That little tiny splash of an opposing colour, that yellowy green, I think it's a bucket or something lying in the sand. It's just an engaging thing. It's just nice to look at for me. Great job, Perker. I like it. Another one here which I find quite strong. Very strong. Again, we're kind of almost on the thriller theme, Bob, again, but in a very different way. This I get Alfred Hitchcock here. Does anyone else get Alfred Hitchcock? Thank you, Lenny. I'm glad you see lime green too. Does anyone else get Alfred Hitchcock out of this? I certainly do. I get old thriller movie, something scary going on. So I hope you didn't actually frighten your lovely wife when you shot this. But I do like it. Putting those eyes right down near the bottom, very, very brave. I kind of like the fact that, you know, they're not quite central. I wish there was just an teeny little bit more space with her right eye, because the edge of the frame to me is just touching onto her lower mascara there, and I just, tiny bit. That translates into tiny bit. But it's such a great shot. I like the lighting, it's dramatic, that bright bit and then the darker eye. There's something about this, I like it. I see Hitchcock. Shirley Bassey, good one, Ian, yeah. Psycho or the Bird, says Debbie, yeah. Yeah, great shot, great shot. I think this was a really interesting, engaging shot by Joe Connolly too. And I'm so intrigued as to how you shot that. I can't for the life of me make up my mind Whether this is a macro shot and you just got everything come together perfectly and that is motion blur, or whether you are just a whiz with Photoshop and you created the motion blur, either way, it doesn't matter. It looks great. I love the fact that we've got this quizzical expression on a flying ant or a bug or something like this. It's a quizzical expression. Unlike that hard diagonal, it's not even a diagonal, that hard line just sort of cutting across the lower right corner of the frame. And it's just kind of like this bug's got its head on one side and it's going, yeah, you want to try it? Yeah, you want some? You want some? Very interesting image. Very interesting image. Nice one, Joe. Here's another one again, which I find very non-conformist, from Christy. Is it Kirsty or Christy? I'll wait till it comes up here. Kirsty, apologies. Again, I really like it because you're not conforming. We've got a line coming straight down through the middle. That is our shot. It comes straight down through the middle. We know what this shot's all about. I know you wrote it in the description because I did read it afterwards, but you don't need to read it. We know exactly what this is about. This is the height wall, isn't it? This is something to do with the height wall. And when I did read it, I got it. Yeah, you do this sunflower thing. It's a family thing. But to me, I just think it's a happy, fun picture. I like the way you've cropped through the chin. It's very, very brave cropping, and you've matched that crop with the sunflower. So we've kind of got symmetry and non-conformism all happening at the same time. I really like this one, guys. I think it's a really great idea. We've got another. I just put this in because I like it. I think it's a nice shot. Are we non-conformist? Possibly. But I like this one, Jeremy. It's another moody black and whitey sort of thing. Someone walking with a dog. Even though it's black and white, it still feels like it's going to be warm. Maybe it's just because we've got it so hot the last few days in the UK. It's almost like there's too much foreground. And it's framing. You're doing two things. You're kind of adding foreground. Yeah, that's a rule. You're kind of frame within a frame because you're framing your subject matter, which you've put in the middle, but it's almost like you've got sort of too much foreground and too small a frame and the little subject in the middle, and somehow because you've done all that to extreme, it works. I can't explain it. Guys, I want to talk to you a little bit about rules of composition when we get, just before we look at our winner, but I do like it. It looks to me like, you know, like it's a conventional picture, but the more you look at it, the more you realise that actually if you go along to our good old rules, they're being broken, and it's a really engaging shot, as all of these are. Couldn't agree with you more, Yvonne. Yes, be careful, Jeremy. Just be careful. You might get arrested. Yeah, sorry, I was just checking comments in case there was a question. Here's another one which I like from Kari. It's kind of classical, but I like it. You know, the word is, ooh, lens flare is bad, wicked and wrong. Burnt highlights are bad, wicked and wrong. We've kind of, are we conforming to thirds and things? A little bit. But, you know, so what? The lens flare is creating this warmth, this feeling. I think it's really, really nice. Where are we? What time of year is it? August? Yeah, I don't know. I suppose the sunflowers, are they out? They're kind of gone over where I live in the world. So, you know, forgive me asking, but I hope you did shoot this one for the challenge. All the sunflowers in the fields near me, they've already gone. They don't look anything like this. Many of them are harvested already. But I love it. On the rules thing, I love that lens flare on the left. It just makes the girl work. The backlight on her face. Lots of good stuff going on there. Nicely done. Thanks for clarifying, Carrie. I didn't want to doubt you. I was just checking. It's a great shot. It's a great shot. What do we got here? We've got Seppo. And there's all sorts of craziness happening here. It's like there's just stuff poking in from everywhere. There is almost no conformism whatsoever. There's all these things pointing in different directions and a big empty hole in the middle of the picture. And the light striking that one crane on the left makes it work. Makes it eye-catching, makes it engaging. All these cranes sort of facing in different directions, all those hard lines happening in the lower left corner. I think this is a really, really strong picture. Jenny just said it's a crane ballet. Yeah, like that thought. I love that thought. Yeah, you're right, Sue. This harks back to when we did PLD Bonkers. Doctor Who, another great one. It's so interesting seeing what you think about these pictures. Dance of the Cranes. Maybe it could be a movie, Dances with Cranes. Yeah, love it. But look, guys, rules of composition, this isn't conforming as far as I can see to any of them, but it works because of the way Seppo's got the light on that one crane. If they were all silhouetted, I don't think it would work very well at all. Sure, we've got a bit of backlight going on behind that, you know, the tower, the building in the middle at the bottom. But if all those cranes were silhouette-y, it wouldn't work, I don't think. This is what's meant by not conforming to the rules, but you've still got to deliver a great picture. You've still got to remember about light and all the other stuff, all the other good stuff that goes on. Mr. David Cunningham, I like this too. It's very, very, very edgy, and again, it feels like we're going back to the documentary photographers of the 30s and 40s here. But of course we know that we're in the present day because of the subject matter. It's edgy and it's uncomfortable, as the current situation is for everyone, and I think you caught this really, really well in one frame. I really do. I think you caught this really, really well. Edgy and uncomfortable. Her expression of her eyes, you know, the mask, the way she's positioned so uncomfortably in that corner makes the whole shot uncomfortable. The fact that there is no one around her, the isolated feeling. It's a really great capture, David. I really like it. Okay, so we are into our runners-up, our 5 runners-up for the photo lockdown Break the Rules challenge. Let's go and have a little look. Yeah, I agree, Burrowing Bunny. The dirt on the window did give a nice feeling. So Heather Rose, I love your lens flare. I just love it. Don't shoot into the sun. Yeah, absolutely. Tons of lens flare, and it gives us such a lovely soft feeling. Lens flare is dreamy. Lens flare often communicates a feeling of warmth as well. So don't be afraid to use it. Now, I don't know what the rainbow lens flare is. We've got the milky lens flare, which is one thing. But we've also got the rainbow lens flare. So I don't know if you shot this out of a window and got additional, or whether it just is, you know, a lens artifact, whether it's going on inside your lens. Either way, it works. And the feeling for me of this is we've got another vertical line. I think it's a great shot. Well done. It sort of isn't conforming to rules, and it works. Nice one, Heather. You have a place on a webinar. Oh, and by the way, guys, all of you guys in the winners and the runners up, and anyone who's been a winner or runner up previously, please, please, please make sure you post your winner runner up images into our winners and runners up gallery on the page. That's something else I need to talk to you about briefly as well, just before we finish. So our next one, Hayley Elizabeth. Another very, very simple kind of non-conformist image. We see quite a lot of images like this online and in books and things like that, but it works. You know, we often have symmetry, you know, where you have the circle right in the middle, but what I really like here is the symmetry is broken because half of the dandelion clock is missing. There's just a few little stragglers left behind on one side, and it's all in the middle, and then the symmetry is broken by something happening off to one side. Beautiful, simply done image. So few colours. I like the bluey sort of tinge to it. Yeah, I know someone's going to tell me, "Mate, it's not blue, that's magenta, you idiot." I'm not that colourblind. Great image. Nicely done, Hayley. I think this is another powerful image here from Kay down there in New Zealand. Again, very bravely composed shot. Cutting off a head is quite a brave thing to do, but it works to me. I think we get a feeling of kind of like almost impatience, of waiting for something. Now we spoke already about cutting off at the lips and things like this, whereas here we've gone for full on, we're taking the whole neck off, we're going across the shoulders, the pose, the folded arms, it kind of gives that feeling of impatience. The light and the lines, the harshness of that shuttering against the softness of a human being, to me they just work. And again, what have you got? Complementary colours. So guys, you who are struggling about this whole rule thing, yeah, what are we doing here? We're not conforming really to any rules. Excuse me. But the shot works. It works, as do all of these. Another street shot, this time from David. I find this works too. I know, we're cutting people's heads off. We've taken our cue from Tori, we've all got knives out. We're cutting people's heads off. But to me, it doesn't matter, it works. There's something really great about this shot. I'm intrigued, did you shoot this from the hip? Were you out and about in the street shooting from the hip? Or were you just kind of waiting for the right moment? Or is it someone you know who you got to walk past? I'm intrigued, David, but I think it's really strong. It's shot with a very wide angle lens. We can tell that because of the slight distortion of this girl's hand. I know this time I'm going to say, yeah, her foot is cut off, her back foot, I think it's her left leg, right leg, is kind of cut off in the corner, but somehow this one works, whereas that other shot, that really powerful black and white sideways on shot, forgive me, I've forgotten which one of you guys took it, just taking the edge of the toe off somehow was uncomfortable, whereas in this case it's uncomfortable, but it seems to work. And what I'm getting is power, a hurry, a rush. I need to get across the street, I'm going somewhere. This person is striding out. The light just seems to work. It is coming from the side. We've got nice simple colours, predominantly blues. It's breaking rules because we cut someone's head off and it works. Congratulations, David. Look forward to seeing you on whatever webinar you choose. Now we're going for something that is so classical. How can you ignore that? I'm not a pet photography man by a long shot. Matthew Browne. It's really great. It's really great. Really, the only non-conformist thing you're doing here is you're not looking into the frame, which would be the classical way of doing this. But because our little dog is looking at the frame, if there's one thing you've learnt tonight, if you want a shot to be kind of boring, not boring as in I don't want to look at it, but it's like the subject is bored of the viewer. So it's like the photo is bored of the viewer rather than the viewer is bored of the photo, if that makes sense. Our little dog here is kind of sitting there in the most perfect composition, perfect separation from the background, and he's just looking the other way. This dog is completely bored by whoever is looking at it and thinking, what a cute little dog, I just want to go and scratch it behind its ears. Great shot, Matthew. Great shot. Really nicely done. Congratulations, all of you guys, all of you runners up. Don't forget, message Emma, message Emmeline. We'll sort out what webinar you want to come on. We haven't got any running right this minute. There will be some soon, hoping to have the new one up, which is all about composition, the choreography of composition, which will be hopefully running by the end of this month. So next we're going to be looking at this week's winner, but just before I do so, something about the rules of composition. They are very, very useful as guides when you're starting out in photography, when you're first getting going, you're finding your feet and you need something to try and help you figure out how to make a composition, where to position things in the viewfinder. The rule of thirds, we see it all the time. However, we do see it all the time, and that is why it can be a little bit boring. But the other thing is, have you noticed how many pictures and images we've looked at tonight where we go, okay, well, that's a bit rule of thirds, but it's also a bit diagonal. Very often these things kind of overlap. And I don't know about you, but I certainly feel that I don't notice which rule of composition an image is until after it's been taken. Really interested to know. Now, I get it, we're all in different places on our journeys, but maybe some of you more experienced photographers, do you find that too? Do you find you shoot a shot and then afterwards when you look at it you think, yeah, I suppose it's a bit of a diagonal really, or a bit of a rule of thirds or something, but you don't actually think of the rules when you're shooting? Because to me, the way you shoot a picture is, remember, this is your viewfinder all the way around. Hang on, I'm going to do it in one hand, it's too complicated for me. This is your viewfinder all the way around the edge of the frame. It's because it does it back to front. There we go. That is the edge of the frame. That's your composition. That is your picture frame, like this thing here. And you've got to look all the way around the viewfinder. You've got to try different things out, move things around. It's the choreography of composition for this webinar, simply because composition is a dance that you do. It's not something your camera does. It's where you stand, how you move, whether you turn this way or that way, or move yourself, or whether you go up, or whether you go down, or you tilt up or you down. It's a movement, it's a dance that you do to align the elements within your picture the way you want it. Let's just have a little look at what some people are saying about this. George just says he agrees. Yeah, quite a few people have said that they agree. Now, if you're someone who's starting out, you're struggling with the whole composition concept, by all means, feel free to comment. Do you find the rules of composition to be useful? John just said, as I see it, the rules, they're coming so fast, I need to slow it down a bit. Where are we? As I see it, the rules came from images that work through history. They are not there for the sake of it. Yeah, I would agree with you, Jonathan. I think it's through the analysis of pictures that we look at a whole bunch of shots and go, right, we really like these. Now, what's the common thread? And then we look for things. As human beings, we look for things. We look for patterns and shapes in things. We look for order in the world. It's part of our human search for certainty, in my opinion. So it's kind of like if we go, wow, now this is interesting. Look, now these shots where things appear on the thirds, they seem to be nice. And then somehow the rule of thirds was born. Or these things that go on a diagonal line, and so a rule of diagonals was born. They're really, really useful when you're starting out. Trust me, they are so useful because it gets you going. But don't be hung up by them. Don't think you've got to obey them. For the challenge, Moose is just saying, for this challenge, I removed the part of my process where I check for the rules. Exciting, interesting, Moose. Very relevant. If I tried doing it all first, I'd never take a picture, said Sue. Yes, I agree. Composing an image is purely looking through the viewfinder and arranging things in a way that you think looks good, asking yourself, do I want that in or not? Noticing, there's something red poking into the corner, what do I need to remove it? I need to move a little bit or zoom a little bit, because focal length and composition are best friends. They're in love. If you've been on the Focal Length Explained webinar, we talked about that a lot, and we will be touching on it in the new composition one too. Try to compose, take into account structure, says Bearer Clive. Maybe this is why this week was a challenge. Yeah, but also there's been some really structured compositions here. Remember our white curtain blowing out of the window, yet that rigid structure. Really interesting comments, guys. What's our time? It's coming up to wrap it up time, so I'm not going to talk on this for too long. I just saw an interesting one, but I moved it. Landscapes I compose, street stuff I just shoot. Yeah. I never look for them. It's more feel, says Stephen. Convey your feelings through the image. Yeah. Go with your gut. Go with your instinct. My old mentor Billy always said, trust your instincts. They'll never let you down. And you know what? He's kind of right. And the key to it all is practice. Just keep practicing. Practice, practice, practice. Don't stop shooting. Those of you who've done, any of my online courses will know that there are on most, I think apart from week 1 of the UBC, there are exercises to do. It's not a question of just doing one exercise and going, yeah, I've done it, box ticked, move on. You've got to keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it until you don't have to think about it anymore. Peter Knight just said if everyone used the same rules all the time, things would look boring. How very true that is indeed. Okay, so let's have a look at this week's PLD winner, shall we? And the suspense is killing. You know those TV programs where they go, and the winner is Lorum Ipsum. I kept coming back to it over and over and over again. To me, it's just such a gentle, beautiful child, young kid, boy lost in their own thoughts. It's really well put together, beautiful, beautiful, soft, gentle colours. I really just think it's a beautifully done photo. I love the edginess of the composition. It's almost as though, okay, this is me going over to fairyland again. But this may help those of you who are struggling with creativity. This may help listening to me and others go off into fairyland, not just me. That's where creativity lives. It's kind of in fairyland, not in rule land. It's kind of like, to me, this beautiful sort of grass and seed heads and that lovely sky. We're just kind of waiting for the child to arrive rather than a child walking through the landscape. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but I just think it is a beautiful, beautiful shot. Congratulations, Lorraine. I love it. Don't forget, put your picture into the winners gallery. So there we come to the end of this current challenge, the rules challenge. Let's just put this in here so I can see you guys. The next challenge is going to be going up in a moment, and I talk just a little bit about interpreting challenges in this one. The next video, well, you're going to find out. I mustn't tell you too much about it. We've got a challenge for you, but I want to try and help you think more creatively, because that's what PLD is about. Everybody in the world is telling you how to use cameras and settings and gadgets and what upgrade you need. The upgrades are useless. There's only one thing you need to upgrade, and that is you. And it's the creativity part, because there's only 5 things on a camera you need to know how to work. 5 controls you need. There are other things that are useful, not saying there aren't, but there's only 5 things you need. And the rest of it is inside of you, and just trying to look at the world a little bit differently. You ever watched a kid, you know, when they kind of look at something like that, just to see what it looks like from there? Do it. Get in touch with your child, your inner child. Right, so we are just over 8:30. Thank you for being here, guys. As I say, if you enjoy Photo Lockdown and want to become a patron to help support it, to keep it going, I put in a shed load of work, and so does Emma, to try and keep it going, but I love doing it. It's something I love doing, and I would love to keep it going. So if you can, support us with a small regular monthly donation. There's a link below this to find out where, and I'm sure others who are already donating will happily point you in direction within the group. You're a great bunch of people. I love hanging with you. It's been a pleasure talking to you this evening. Have a great night. The next challenge will be up fairly soon. I won't launch the gallery, by the way, the album for the next challenge. I'm not going to put it up until tomorrow. I'll put it up tomorrow at some point, all right? So there isn't going to be an album. You've got to go and shoot your pictures anyway. You've got to think about the challenge before you do it. So the album to put it in will be there tomorrow. Please remember, you must put your pictures in the album. I am looking at a way to try and get you more views, because someone commented today that Facebook doesn't tell you about images added to albums. It tells you about images added to the feed, to the page. I have no problem if you want to add it, if you want to add your image twice, if you want to put it into the discussion and into the album, so long as when you put it into the album you've got the hashtag, I don't care. But it might just help you guys get noticed, get more people coming to have a look. Okay, so don't feel, by all means, post it on the discussion and in the album, but you must put it into the album if it's for the challenge. Take care, guys. I'm gonna call it quits there, and I I look forward to seeing what you come up for the next one. Be well, take care.